All right, so our next set of notes is dividing rational expressions. So to divide fractions, and this doesn't just apply to if they are expressions, which means they include variables. This is how you divide every fraction. So to divide rational expressions, you multiply by the reciprocal. Or if you want a nice memory trigger, keep, change, flip. So you keep the first fraction the same, you change division to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction over. Okay, so that is the main process for today is keep, change, flip. So our first example that we have 5pq over 16p cubed divided by 35p squared q squared over 8p to the fifth. So keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 5pq over 16p cubed. Keep that one. Change division to multiplication, and then flip this one over. So we have 8p to the fifth over 35p squared q squared. Now, before we multiply all of this together, we're going to simplify what we can. So 8 over 16 simplifies to 1/2. So cross out the 8 and make it a 1. Cross out the 16, make it a 2. 5 and 35 simplify. So cross out the 5 and make it a 1. Cross out the 35 and make it a 7. And now we're going to multiply the variables and we'll simplify those later. So 1 times 1 is 1. P times p to the fifth is p to the sixth. And then q times nothing is q. Then 2 times 7 is 14. P cubed times p squared is p to the fifth. And then q squared doesn't have anything over here, so it's going to stay q squared. And now this is where we're going to go back and remember our rules of exponents. So for dividing, we're going to subtract. And I'm going to put a 1 here just so we know that we're subtracting 1 minus that. So we have 1 over 14. That's going to stay the same. 6 minus 5 is 1. So we have p to the first power. And then 1 minus 2 is -1. So we have q to the negative first power. And remember, you cannot leave an answer with a negative exponent. So the negative exponent flips the number from its original place in the fraction. So this is going to start in the numerator and flip down to the denominator. So our answer is p over 14q. Because we really don't need this 1 in the numerator. And then once you have them in their final places, you do not need the 1s as the exponent. So p over 14q. And there we go. So there's our first dividing rational expressions problem. All right. So keep this one the same. So we have 10 over 4x minus 8. Change division to multiplication. So this makes it x squared plus x minus 6 over 2x squared plus 6x. Now, at this step, we are going to simplify and factor everything that we can. So we're going to factor this. So the factors of 6 that get us 1 are 3 and 2. So this numerator becomes x plus 3 and x minus 2. The denominator of this one has a common factor. So 2x squared and 6x have a common factor of 2x. So 2x squared divided by 2x is x. 6x divided by 2x is 3. And then the 10 is going to stay 10. 4x and 8 have a common factor of 4. So we're going to take that out. And 4x divided by 4 is x. Minus 8 divided by 4 is -2. And there we go. At this step, we can get rid of a lot of stuff. Because if you look, we have an x plus 3 in the numerator and the denominator over here. So those are going to go away. And then we also have an x plus 2 in the numerator and the denominator here. So we're also going to get rid of those. Now we can multiply what we can. So we have 10 times essentially 1 here now. So 10 times 1 is 10. And then 4 times 2x is 8x. So we have 10 over 8x. But we're not done. Because 10 over 8 simplifies to 5 over 4x. And that is our final answer. All right, I kind of find these fun because it's a puzzle of what you can and cannot cancel. And like this one started out what looked really super complicated. And then once we factored and canceled, it simplified to a single fraction with one variable. All right, so our next one. Let's go ahead and cube change flip, and then we'll factor everything we need. So we have 2a cubed minus 12a squared over a squared minus 4a minus 12. Change division to multiplication, and then flip this over. So we have a squared minus 8a plus 15 over 24a squared minus 8a cubed. All right, so let's just start factoring. So let's start with this 2a cubed minus 12a squared. So their common factor is 2a squared. So 2a cubed divided by 2a squared is a. 12a squared divided by 2a squared is 6. So we have a minus 6 in that set of parentheses. And now the factors of 12 that are going to get us 4 are 6 and 2. So this factors into a minus 6 and a plus 2. And then times, and now we're going to factor this numerator. So the factors of 15 that get us negative 8 are 5 and 3. So we have x minus 5 and x minus 3. And then we need a common factor here. The common factor here obviously is going to have an a squared. And it's also going to be 8. But we're going to pull out the negative that is with this so that it's negative 8. And then we're going to flip the order we're going to write our answer in. So negative 8a cubed divided by negative 8a squared is just a. And then 24a squared divided by negative 8a is minus 3. And the reason I put it in that order is because we now have a same term. When I go back and fix all of the variables so that they're the same, because I flipped to x's starting over here. Change these so that they're all the same. They should all be a's, not x's. Oops. Don't know why that flipped out of the color. A. There we go. So now we have a minus 3's all up here. Now this is the fun part, the canceling part. So we already talked about how we have a minus 3's in the numerator and the denominator here. So we're going to cancel those. Then over here, we have a minus 6 and a minus 6 in the numerator and the denominator. So cancel those. And now if you look across here, we have an a squared and an a squared. And guess what? Those are going to cancel. And so what we have left, we have 2 and a minus 5 in the numerator. So we have 2 times a minus 5. And then in our denominator, we have the negative 8 from over here. And the a plus 2 from over here. And we have one more step because 2 over negative 8 simplifies to 1/4. So we have 1 right here, but we don't really need to write that. A minus 5. And then over negative 4 times a plus 2. And that is our final answer. And this is why I think they're fun. It's just a lot of puzzle. Factor, cross things out, and you get a simpler answer than the mess you started with. All right, and then I believe this is the last example, and we have 3 things. All right, so you have to follow order of operations, which means you go left to right and do operations left to right. So we're going to do the division first, but we're going to put this over 1. So we have x plus 3 over x, change the division to multiplication, and then flip this over. So then we have 1 over 4x plus 1, and then just bring this down because you don't have to change anything there. You're just going to leave it 16x squared minus 1 over x plus 3. All right, now we're going to factor this 16x squared first. Actually, let's just factor that before we write it there, just to make life easier. So 16x squared minus 1 is the difference of 2 squares. So you take the square roots of both. So the square root of 16 is 4. Square root of x squared is x, so we get 4x there. And then the square root of 1 is 1. And you have 1 positive and 1 minus. So now we have everything set to just start canceling things. And the easiest one, because we just wrote it, we have a 4x plus 1 here and a 4x plus 1 here. So we're just going to cancel those. And then if you look, there's an x plus 3 in this denominator, and an x plus 3 in this numerator. Once again, you're just going to cross those out. So the things that we are left with, we have the 1 and the 4x minus 1 in the numerator. So essentially, it's just 4x minus 1 over, and the only thing left in our denominator is x. And there you go. And we're done. Voila.